All right, so get ready because today we are diving into a world where history meets some serious craftsmanship.
Mhm.
We're talking about the fascinating career of a harpsichord maker.
And you sent in some really interesting sources about this one.
Oh, yeah.
Not just about the music, but like what it actually takes to make a living doing this kind of work.
Well, you know me. I'm always down for a deep dive into a career path most people don't even know exists.
Right.
Our main source for this one is RoleCatcher.
Okay.
And I gotta say, I'm realizing RoleCatcher is way more than just a job board.
Yeah.
They've got these like deep dives into all sorts of careers,
Uh-huh.
and their guide for harpsichord makers.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is packed with insights.
It really is.
For real.
For starters, they paint a picture of this profession that's like both what you'd expect and then totally full of surprises. But I knew these artisans were skilled, right?
Yeah.
But the level of detail, it's next level.
Okay, so walk me through this. What's a day in the life really like for a harpsichord maker?
Mm.
Because I'm picturing like a quiet workshop, maybe some classical music playing softly in the background.
You're not wrong.
Okay.
There's definitely an element of that.
Right.
RoleCatcher talks about the importance of precision.
Mhm.
Like they specifically mention sanding wood to absolute perfection.
Wow.
It made me think about those artisans who restore like ancient furniture. You know,
Yeah.
the level of patience and focus is incredible.
It's funny you mentioned that because I actually tried a woodworking class once.
Okay.
And let's just say my birdhouse looked a little more like abstract art.
Right.
Major respect for the folks who can do this at a professional level.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
RoleCatcher emphasizes that it's not just about the woodworking.
Okay.
Harpsichord makers also have to be incredibly technical.
Hmm.
They're responsible for assembling all those intricate parts, tuning the instrument, making sure it actually sings the way it's supposed to.
Wait, so there's a science to it as well. I guess I never really thought about how all those strings and mechanisms all work together to create that sound.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's just the beginning.
Okay.
What surprised me most was RoleCatcher's breakdown of like the skills needed.
Okay.
I was expecting a lot about woodworking,
Yeah, some musical theory.
maybe some musical theory.
Right.
But get this, sales and marketing was near the top of the list.
Hold on, sales and marketing
Yeah.
for a harpsichord maker?
Yeah,
That seems counterintuitive.
it does, doesn't it?
Don't people who need a harpsichord just like seek them out?
Ooh, Guess what I thought too.
Right.
But as RoleCatcher points out, it's a niche market.
Okay.
These artisans often have to be their own advocates, connecting with clients, marketing their skills, maybe even teaching
Yeah.
to supplement their income.
So we're not just talking about a craftsperson. We're talking entrepreneur almost.
Yeah.
That adds a whole new layer of complexity I had not considered.
It's way more entrepreneurial than you might think.
Interesting.
RoleCatcher actually highlighted that like a good chunk of harpsichord makers end up taking on apprentices or students,
Yeah.
which makes sense, such specialized knowledge.
Yeah, it's like a master apprentice kind of thing, right? You learn by doing from someone who's been like immersed in the craft for years.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's often how makers kind of find their footing,
Yeah.
building those relationships with more established artisans, learning the tricks of the trade that you wouldn't find in a textbook.
Speaking of textbooks, what about formal education?
Mm.
Does RoleCatcher say anything about like degrees being necessary in this field?
It's interesting they don't present it as like a make or break requirement.
Okay.
They said an apprenticeship is almost always more valuable than a degree,
Really?
especially early on.
So experience trumps credentials in this case.
It seems that way.
That's refreshing to hear, honestly.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing like some kind of background in like music or woodworking would be helpful.
You'd think so, right?
Right.
And RoleCatcher mentions that some makers DO have degrees
Okay.
in things like fine arts history, even engineering.
Wow.
But they also pointed out that like some of the most successful artisans learned everything on the job,
Really?
starting as apprentices, working their way up.
Wow. So there's not one clear-cut path. It's more about passion, dedication, and probably a high tolerance for sawdust.
And patience.
And patience, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But let's say someone is interested in this career, like what are the first steps? How do you even break into such a niche field?
That's where RoleCatcher's insights, I think, are really valuable.
Okay.
They have a whole section on getting started.
Okay.
And they emphasize the importance of networking,
Okay.
but not just any networking. They specifically recommend seeking out organizations
Yep.
like the Historical Keyboard Society or attending events like the Boston Early Music Festival.
So finding your tribe, basically.
Yeah.
Connecting with people who are as passionate about early music and instrument making as you are.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They say those communities are incredibly welcoming to newcomers.
Okay.
And because it's such a specialized field, word of mouth is huge.
Right. Yeah.
Clients often rely on recommendations from other musicians or experts.
That makes sense. A harpsichord isn't exactly an impulse purchase.
Right.
People want to know they're working with someone who knows their stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher even suggests reaching out directly to established makers. Maybe offering to volunteer or assist on a project just to gain experience and build relationships.
That's a great tip. You've got to be proactive and demonstrate your passion. Okay, so we've talked about the skills, the training, the importance of networking.
Right.
But let's get real for a moment. Every career has its pros and cons.
True.
What does RoleCatcher say about the ups and downs of being a harpsichord maker?
They're very honest about it.
Okay.
They don't shy away from the challenges.
Yep.
Like the fact that it can be a difficult field to break into, especially if you're looking for a traditional 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, that's understandable given how specialized it is. It's not like there are harpsichord maker openings on every job board.
Exactly. And because it's often project-based,
Yeah.
the income can be unpredictable.
Right.
You might have months where you're flush with work, and then other times when things are a bit slower.
So you've got to be comfortable with some level of uncertainty and be good at managing your finances.
For sure. And they also mentioned the physically demanding nature of the work.
Okay.
You're on your feet a lot using hand tools, lifting heavy pieces of wood.
Okay, so maybe not the best career path for someone with a bad back?
Probably not.
Right.
But of course, they balance those challenges with the incredibly rewarding aspects of the job.
Okay, tell us about the good stuff.
Right.
What are the things that make people fall in love with this career?
Well, I imagine spending your days creating something beautiful and intricate with your own two hands. It's a level of craftsmanship that's almost unheard of in today's world.
There's a certain romance to that, isn't there? Like
Yeah.
you're tapping into this ancient tradition of instrument making.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher highlights how many makers feel like a deep connection to the history of the instrument. They're not just building something new. They're often restoring instruments that are hundreds of years old, bringing them back to life.
Wow. To be able to touch and restore something with that kind of history, that must be incredible.
It's amazing.
It's like being a custodian of musical heritage.
You could say that, and let's not forget the satisfaction of hearing that first pure note.
Yeah.
After you've put your heart and soul into creating an instrument, it's more than just a job. It's a calling.
It's like you're not just building an instrument, you're like bringing history to life through music.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
You know, I'm starting to understand why people are so drawn to this field, even with all the challenges we talked about.
It's definitely a labor of love.
Yeah.
But you know what really struck me while reading through RoleCatcher's analysis was how many of the skills you need to be like a successful harpsichord maker are actually incredibly transferable.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So even if someone isn't planning to build harpsichords for a living,
Right.
there are takeaways here that could apply to other careers.
Absolutely.
Okay, I like that.
Think about it. These artisans need meticulous attention to detail.
Right.
They're problem solving on the fly.
Wow.
They're managing client expectations.
Yeah.
Those are valuable in any field.
It's like a master class in craftsmanship and AD business all rolled into one.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher actually highlights that a lot of former harpsichord makers have gone on to successful careers in other fields,
Oh, wow. Like what?
like furniture restoration,
Okay.
museum curation, even teaching.
Yeah. You know, it makes sense that those skills would translate well to working with antiques or historical artifacts. You'd need that same eye for detail, that understanding of historical context.
Totally. And don't forget the problem-solving aspect.
That's true.
Imagine being able to say in a job interview, well, one time I had to figure out how to repair a mechanism from a 17th century harpsichord.
Oh, man. Talk about a conversation starter.
Right.
You would definitely stand out from the crowd with that one.
Exactly. It shows you're adaptable, resourceful, not afraid of a challenge.
Right.
And the customer service skills you hone in a niche market like that.
Oh, yeah.
Pure gold.
Yeah.
Learning to communicate effectively with discerning clients,
Right.
that's invaluable.
It's funny, we often think of craftsmanship as this very solitary pursuit. But it sounds like there's a surprisingly strong human element to it, especially in a field like harpsichord making.
Totally. There is.
Yeah.
And that's something that RoleCatcher really emphasizes throughout their guide,
Okay.
the importance of building relationships.
Yeah.
Not just with clients, but with fellow artisans, mentors, even competitors.
It's that idea of community again, which seems to be so crucial in a field that's as much about preserving this tradition as it is about innovating.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about carrying the torch forward, passing on that knowledge and passion to the next generation of makers.
Well, I have to say, we've only scratched the surface of this fascinating world, but you've given me a whole new appreciation for harpsichord makers.
It's really something.
It's more than just a job. It's a craft, it's an art form, it's a connection to history.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mm-hmm.
And for you listening, if you're even a little intrigued by what you've heard today, I highly encourage you to check out RoleCatcher's full guide.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely worth a read.
It's amazing how much insight they pack into these deep dives.
Yeah, they really do. And who knows, maybe exploring this career path for yourself will spark something unexpected in your own journey.
You never know.
Whether it's uncovering a hidden talent or simply gaining a newfound appreciation for the dedication and the artistry
Yeah.
it takes to create something truly special.
It's true. In a world that often prioritizes speed over craftsmanship, I think there's something really beautiful and timeless about mastering a skill that's been passed down for centuries.
Hmm.
And honestly, that's a lesson we can all take to heart no matter what path we choose.